Yo, BJ Gaddour with the BJ Gaddour podcast, and our returning champion today is the Trevor Lane of the Lakers Nation podcast. We had him on at the end of last season and the very discouraging, depressing finish in the Western Conference Finals, though I will say one of my favorite all-time NBA seasons, considering where the Lakers started last year and where they finished. And ultimately, it gave us all a whole lot of hope for the 2023-24 season, which we have Trevor on here to discuss. So, Trevor, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. And I'm excited for this season. Let's go. I think this is going to be a really fun one, a really exciting season, and I can't wait.
This is going to be an all-time NBA season, I think, for a lot of reasons. We've got an incredibly deep, competitive Western Conference. We have the whole Dame to Milwaukee situation, which puts them at the clear, I think, front runner to possibly win it all. But whoever makes it out of the West is going to be pretty tough. This first week in particular, I mean, the Lakers could go 0-3 to start the season.
Yeah, they certainly could. I mean, it's not the NBA. The NBA did not do the Lakers any favors in the schedule in general. If you look, they got, frankly, one of the worst schedules in the league, one of the most difficult anyway. But this opening week, I mean, depending on what you think of the Sacramento Kings, you could be talking about three of the very top teams in the Western Conference with the Denver Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns, and then the Sacramento Kings. So, yeah, it could very well wind up looking at an 0-3 start. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they can maybe go. I got to be thrilled with 2-1 with this schedule. But I think this is also an indication of just the Western Conference in general. You mentioned that it's going to be very difficult. And just if you're playing any West team, there's a good chance that you're in for a fight on any given night. I mean, even look at the teams that were kind of the gimme wins from last season. Houston, which actually beat the Lakers once last year, but Houston, San Antonio, even Utah. Utah at one point last year was the 1 seed, and they, I think, got better. Houston got better. They added pieces. San Antonio added Victor Wembanyama. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be playoff teams, but I don't think there's any gimme wins where you can just roll the ball out on the floor and automatically chalk up a W on their record this season. And so any Western Conference opponent is going to be a really tough night for any team. And so we're going to see that all throughout the season. The West is going to be cannibalizing itself. And so I think we're going to see a lot of teams that are sitting right in the same range in terms of win totals, which is going to make for a very, very tight playoff race.
Oh, no doubt. And again, I'm just concerned about the fact that the first three coaches we play hate the Lakers. You know, obviously Vogel, for me, the worst part of the offseason was Vogel becoming the Phoenix Suns head coach, because I thought he was an excellent coach. He obviously was the scapegoat for the failed Russell Westbrook experiment. And, you know, the last thing you need is someone with that level of talent. 3 unguardable players on his team. And Nurkic, by the way, I don't think Nurkic is any less than DeAndre Ayton. In fact, he might be the better option as kind of that European pass-first type big. And then Mike Brown, obviously, I mean, you know what happened to him. 1-5, got canned. So it'll be really interesting. What's your prediction for the first 10 games? Like, how do you think realistically they fall? I think you said 6-4 on the show.
Yeah. I've got 6-4. I think 6-4 should be the baseline, and part of that is because, well, most of it is because you get Orlando twice. You get some easier matchups in there. I believe Portland is in that mix as well. So there's some tough opponents, but there is an East Coast swing that you go on, and hopefully the Lakers can pick up some wins there. And then if you're only winning 2 of there's 4 games against what you expect to be probably non-playoff teams, or at least borderline teams there. So if you can rack up those 4 wins, then you need to win twice in the remaining 6 games in order to get to 6-4. So that's why, even though I've been saying how difficult the schedule is going to be, I think in the first 10, a 6-4 record is very, very doable. Anything less than that, I'm a little bit concerned, because the schedule does get very difficult, especially March on. So it's really important that in the early stages here, the Lakers rack up as many wins as they can in order to build up a buffer, because, again, things do get tough down the home stretch.
And, you know, the one thing that I think about for you guys coming up here, if they have a losing record in the first 10 games, or it goes catastrophic this first week of the season where they lose the first 3 games, because I saw what happened on your show. People are like, the way that the final preseason game went in Palm Springs, where I'm based, Acrisure Arena, one guy was like, we got to trade everyone and rebuild. after, it was a good preseason until that last game. It was kind of rough to watch in the second half, but that is what you're dealing with Lakers fans, man. I mean, they expect the world, and things can really shift quick emotionally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing in that we're riding that emotional roller coaster, right? They lose a game and everything is awful and the sky is falling, and they win a game and it's, yes, we're never going to lose again. And so there's those highs and lows. But the positive from all that, though, is it means people are invested. People care about this team. People are excited about this team. They have high expectations. And overall, that's a very good thing, because you've got a fan base that really cares and really wants to see winning basketball, even if we do ride that emotional roller coaster maybe a little bit too much sometimes.
Well, to me, the story of the preseason has been D'Lo. We talked about this when you were last on the show. The tough Western Conference Finals where he got played off the floor. Both players and the head coach called him out by name. And then he had that presser in the kind of exit interview where he's like, I'm the player I am. My game is nice. Didn't really sit well with Lakers fans, but his dialogue in his play has been the exact opposite in the preseason, right? Putting his emphasis on defense, kind of outlining his shortcomings in a way that I've never heard him personally do, or most NBA players ever do. So it's a promising start to the season for D'Lo.
Yeah, I mean, he's had, Austin Reeves named him as the guy he thinks is going to break out for the Lakers this year. And so far, everything we've seen in preseason says that's going to be the case. Now, we always have to take preseason with a grain of salt, but as you said, he's doing stuff defensively that we've just never seen him do before. He's been very locked in on that end of the floor. He called himself, said he didn't want to be a liability. He understood that he got played off the floor against the Denver Nuggets. And you can see he's got determination to make sure that doesn't happen again. His offensive game has been fantastic. His efficiency has been incredible. I think part of that is the 5-out offense really suits him well and helps to mitigate his lack of burst and allows him to do some more things getting into the paint with extra space. But it's the defensive side of the ball where he's truly been impressive, and we've seen a major leap. If he can go from being a net negative defender to even just an average defender, just not great, just a decent defensive player, that would do wonders for him and his overall value as a player, as well as his value to the Lakers. So I'm very excited about D'Angelo Russell, what he can do this year if he can have that bounce back season, because this is a guy who caught a lot of flack over the summer, and I'm hoping that he can have a bit of a revenge tour here. And
this is probably where Darvin Ham doesn't get enough credit, because he had this conversation with him before the offseason, and that may have been a conversation that Frank Vogel, maybe not having the same level of credibility as not a former player, or just as, Ham is a presence. This guy used to break backboards, all right? So it's a much easier situation to have that conversation with someone where you literally are saying, look, man, your offense is incredible. You're such a playmaker for the team, but we can't have you out there against certain teams. Do you think that was do you credit Ham for having this conversation with him? Again, we'll never know, but the way D'Lo was talking, who else is going to get in his ear about that?
Yeah, I'm sure Ham has had those conversations with him. D'Angelo Russell has, and just from seeing him when he was young with the Lakers to now, he's become much more introspective. He's very self-aware, which is very impressive for him. And so he gets it, but I'm sure Darvin Ham has been saying those things, explaining those things to him. And you mentioned Frank Vogel, and Frank is a great coach. I really thought that, like you do, I think that Frank, he kind of caught drew the short straw, right? He got a little bit too much of the blame pie, so to speak. A larger portion was reserved for him in the Russell Westbrook fiasco than really should have been. But he's not the motivator that Darvin Ham is. I mean, you listen to Darvin Ham talk, and you just want to run through a brick wall for the guy. And so while we can say Frank is probably the better defensive coach, one of the best defensive coaches in the league, I think that's going to serve Phoenix well. But when you talk about getting guys to buy in and getting guys to take their game to another level and being that motivator, Darvin Ham is certainly that. And so you'd have to imagine that he must have something to do with D'Angelo Russell and his renewed commitment on both ends of the floor.
I'm going to make a bold prediction, in that this is going to be for AD a MVP and Defensive Player of the Year season. Not only because it has to be for us to win, but I think everything's in place for him. He is in his true prime. He had that ending. I remember people saying he was beside himself in the locker room. He went up against his, as we talked about before, his Drago, and LeBron has officially, I think, passed the keys to the franchise. Now, game one, he could get hurt. And then I look like the biggest idiot on the face of the planet. But I do believe, he looks like he dropped his weight a little bit. I think one of the biggest mistakes a player can make is to try to play above their natural weight class, because it takes you away from your strengths. And so that's what I'm hoping for. Do you think, like, what's the probability that prediction comes true in your mind?
I don't know about Defensive Player of the Year and MVP, but I think it's certainly possible. I think so. I actually did my predictions for Lakers Nation this morning, and I had Giannis as the MVP. And the reason for that was because it's more about the Western Conference than anything else. I think you're going to have to be one of the top tier teams, as usual, in order to be in the MVP discussion. And there's just so many teams in the West that all seem interchangeable that when it comes time for the MVP vote, I don't know who's going to be in the top four it's probably going to change day by day. And so I think that could be a factor in the MVP discussion, whereas I think Milwaukee, Boston, unfortunately, I think they're going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference pretty much the entire season. But I think Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, when he's at his best, he's absolutely one of the best players in the NBA and certainly deserving of MVP consideration. I did predict that he will be the Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's been the best defensive player in the NBA for a number of years now. I thought he was clearly the best defensive player this past season. He just had some injuries, like you said, unfortunately. But he went up against Jaren Jackson Jr. in round one of the playoffs, who was the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and they were not anywhere close to the same tier. Anthony Davis is such an incredible defensive player. This year, it is the first year this is starting, it is a 65 games played minimum in order to qualify for the awards. So that's going to be, I think, the biggest hurdle for Anthony Davis. Appear in 65 games, play in 65 games, and I think he is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He is so talented on that end of the floor. It would be a shame if he were to go his entire career and not win one. So I think this is the year it's going to happen.
And they had, both him and AD, I think it was 10 and 9 as the top 10 players, LeBron and AD in the league. You think those are fair rankings?
It's fair when you add in the injury concerns, because we don't know how many games those guys are going to play. I think if you told somebody, hey, both these guys are going to be 100% healthy the entire season, they would both jump into the top five. I think it's the injury concerns that's going to knock them back. And I think that's fair. But when these guys are healthy, and I think this is part of why the Lakers built out the roster the way that they did with the amount of wing depth that they've got, when these guys are healthy, they are two of the very, very best players in the league. So the hope for the Lakers is let's have enough players for them to lean on throughout the course of the regular season. Let's get these guys to the playoffs healthy, and let's turn them loose and watch what happens.
So another big preseason talking point has been Jalen Hood-Schifino. Obviously, there was some great news early in training camp, and then, tough preseason. But ultimately, I look at that as, this guy, he's so young. He's now starting his NBA career in LA, which is just a magnifying glass that no one that age really needs. But what I actually kind of like the fact that he was struggling, because to me, it tells me that he cares. He's obviously tight. He's in his head. You can see his body. You can, and then you hear about his work ethic. If he has the work ethic everyone's talking about, he'll get through this, and this will make him a very resilient player in the league.
Yeah, I certainly hope it will. He got pumped. So in Summer League, we saw him have his struggles, and people were a little down on. I've been hearing all about Cam Whitmore all summer because everybody says, "Oh, the Lakers should have taken Cam Whitmore." And so I thought, okay, going into the season, expectations are going to be low for him. And then day one of training camp, Darvin Ham comes out and says, JHS, Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's been our MVP of day one. And so people went, what? Okay, he's all right. He's done a lot of work over the summer. He's improved a bunch. I can't wait to see this guy get onto the floor. And I bought into it too. I said, my goodness, what are we going to see when this guy gets onto the floor then? How much better did he get? And he kind of fell flat during preseason when he missed a lot of shots, was sloppy. I mean, he looked like you would expect a 20-year-old rookie to look instead of like the training camp MVP. And so I thought that was unfortunate that the bar got set so high, and I think it was unreachable for him. But I do think he is the kind of guy that's going to persevere. Look, there's a lot that the Lakers do like about him. He's a big guard. He's physical. He can defend multiple positions. I think in terms of a backcourt of the future, he's a guy that would slot in very nicely. He's got to get his jumper figured out, got to get his efficiency up, but that's all stuff that will come. I think we have to remember with him, It's all about patience. He's 20 years old. He's a rookie. It's going to take time for him to develop, but he's got great habits already. We've heard all about the work ethic, and typically you want to bet on guys like that. So I think that things are going to work out just fine in the long run for him, but you got to be patient with him, which is not always the easiest thing for Lakers fans.
Yeah, and I think he's learned quickly how, I don't want to say turn on you, but, they already talk about trading him out. Maybe it was the wrong pick. I just feel for the kid because, again, he's also walking into the locker room with, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Like, you're coming in like starstruck. But, again, to me, it's all about work ethic in this league, right? Everyone was the best on their previous team coming into the league, and it really is all about work ethic. And he's got great examples in this locker room with LeBron, other kind of cagey vets that do the work. Let me ask you this question. Are you more concerned about the Nuggets or the Suns?
I think the Nuggets, the Suns are, I think, a very good team, and I think they're going to be tough, especially if their bench turns out to be as good as it looked in that preseason game. That's going to be a problem. But Denver just plays so well together. All of their pieces fit perfectly, whereas with Phoenix, it's figuring out how is this all going to fit? What happens if they suffer an injury to one of their guys? Do they have the depth necessary to sustain themselves without him? So I think until proven otherwise, Denver is still the team to beat. That said, I've had a lot of Lakers fans saying, well, why didn't the Lakers add another big physical presence in the middle? Why bring back Dwight Howard, right? Somebody to deal with Jokic. I think if you just focus in on beating Denver, that's doing a disservice to the rest of the Western Conference. You're not paying enough attention to how deep the West is, because there's a decent chance that you get to the playoffs and you've built a team that you think, okay, we can handle Nikola Jokic, and that's not the team that you run into. There are so many good teams in the West. I do think you gotta give Denver their credit, but there's so many good teams in the West. There's no guarantee it's going to be them. Look, it's been, I think, 5 years in a row now. We've had a new champion every year. So you got to be ready for anything in the West.
So if Jokic is as good as they say he is, all the greats that were part of great teams, they've won back-to-back championships. So they should win again this year. If Mike Malone is that good, if that team is that good, if Jokic is that type of player that we all seem to think he is, they should absolutely win back-to-back. Who do you think's a bigger threat to the Nuggets, the Suns or the Lakers?
I think that the Lakers have more ability to withstand injuries and things like that. And if they get to the postseason, it's hard to pick against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. If the Suns bench ends up being as good as it looked, they're going to be, I think their ceiling is very, very high. So it's a toss-up between those two. Obviously, my heart wants to say Lakers. I think that the ceiling is going to be so high for Phoenix if Frank Vogel can get them to buy in defensively. I think Phoenix is a team that could go out there and just outscore them, outscore the Nuggets. I don't know if the Lakers are going to do that or not. We'll see. We saw some really good things from their 5-out offense in the preseason, but I want to see that during the regular season. I know Booker, I know Durant, I know Beal. They can get buckets whenever they want. So that would certainly be a scary sight come playoff time. So I guess I lean Phoenix a little bit, but it's more I just want to see the Lakers' new offense that we saw in preseason have success out there in the regular season and the postseason, and I think they could be right there as well.
Yeah, I think with the Suns, they have the ability to, people have been saying the Lakers didn't get that Dwight Howard type, right, yeah, to bully Jokic, but I think those days are gone. Jokic got bullied mentally in the bubble. Physically, he's able to not get moved. I mean, he's just a big dude, and his conditioning is next level. Maybe because he doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. The guy gets up and down the floor, no problem. So Phoenix has the speed to expose his slow feet. And, I also think Durant might be the best possible guard on Jokic if they decided to use him in that manner and let Beal and Booker just go crazy. So it's going to be – I'm so excited about this season because of the fact that, it seems like everybody in the West – is going to be around 500.
Yeah, that's just it. There's, the NBA has wanted parity. They got a little taste of it this last year with the Western Conference, where even with like a week left in the season, you were seeing one win, one loss, sending teams into and out of the playoff mix. And I think we're in for more of the same this season. There's going to be a ton of parity. It's going to cannibalize itself. And I think if you're looking at it from the lens of years gone by, where a good team is 60 to 65 wins, you're going to be disappointed. Look, the Nuggets won, 52, 53 games this past season, and they were the number one seed in the Western Conference. I think we're going to get more of the same. It's going to be like 50 wins or so will probably be the one seed in the West this year. And that's going to create a log jam where, again, one win, one loss, one winning streak, one losing streak could completely change your fortune. So it's going to make for an exciting season. And the parity the NBA has been looking for, it's here.
Are you excited about the midseason tourney? I know a lot of people, it wasn't really rolled out probably in its best possible way, but to me, it's like just a way to add a little bit of hype to what already was going to be a regular season game. I don't see any negatives to it. Though again, it hasn't gotten generally very good feedback in the NBA community. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's reason for skepticism, but I'm trying to remain optimistic on it because there were a lot of people who were naysayers about the play-in tournament, and then as soon as everybody was saying this isn't going to work, this is dumb, LeBron didn't like it, right? And then as soon as year one of the play-in tournament, we got Lakers versus Warriors, and it ended up being a great game and did insane ratings. That was it. It's all over. This is here to stay. They are not getting rid of this, and I think it's actually been a really good thing, and it's created even more of a exciting atmosphere. It's kept fans engaged through the remainder of the season because even if you're the 10 seed, you've got a shot, and so that's kept fans engaged and involved and watching it. So, given all the skepticism we saw around that and how instrumental that has been and how it's become now ingrained in the NBA, I'm going to try to keep an open mind about the in-season tournament. There's a lot of people have said, well, it's a soccer thing. That's not going to work. And I think in the early going, that skepticism is going to remain. But if it ends up being a fun competition this year, and again, if you don't care about it, they're just regular season games anyway. They count as the regular season. So you're not losing anything here. But if it ends up being fun, then it'll become part of the NBA's plan moving forward. So I hope it does all work out well for the league. I'm going to stay a bit skeptical on it while trying to keep an open mind. I'm not just going to dismiss it out of hand, which is what a lot of people are doing. They see it as more of a soccer type thing and saying it's not going to work here. Well, let's see how it goes. Again, the play-in tournament worked great, so hopefully this in-season thing will as well.
It's going to be fun. That's all. That's my hopes for it. And there's also what about a dark horse in the West? We barely made it past the Timberwolves, and we always have trouble with the Clippers. Who do you think's a bigger dark horse in the Western Conference, the Clippers or the Timberwolves?
So I'm really high on the Wolves. I'm higher than most people are on the Wolves this year. I think they're being overlooked a little bit. I think Anthony Edwards is going to make the full ascent to superstar status this year. We already saw him on that path with Team USA. And then we're forgetting that for much of the season, the Wolves didn't have Karl Anthony Towns, and they didn't get to really see what Towns and Gobert together can do once they've developed some chemistry. I'm not saying it's going to work great. I think it was a mistake by the Wolves to get rid of Gobert, but I think this team is going to be better than what people are expecting of them. The Clippers have made a promise that they're going to care about the regular season for a change, and they're going to try to win games in the regular season and not just rest their guys. And we'll see if that makes a difference. But they still have so many injury concerns. I'm going to lean towards the younger Wolves side right now, knowing that realistically, if the Clippers have everybody healthy, I think their ceiling is higher. And we'll see if they're able to pull off this James Harden trade. If that ever actually happens, maybe that shifts things. But I'll still lean Wolves slightly. But I think the answer from most people would be Clippers.
The Clippers just strike me as, they're probably the only team that will actually pick up Harden, who has now been a proven. Look, I always lean with the players against the front office. I think it's a players' league. But, that would potentially be the fourth team he's killed in a row. I'm just looking at it, objectively. But it just seems like Ballmer is so obsessed with beating the Lakers, he just can't construct a team to play the other 29 teams in the league.
Yeah, the Clippers seemed very well constructed to deal with the Lakers. Particularly, the Lakers didn't have wing depth, so the Clippers loaded up on wings to throw at them, which again makes sense. The Lakers do have that wing depth now, but yeah, they are 100% obsessed with the Lakers. We've seen it in their advertising. We've seen it in the comments they've been making and all that sort of stuff. But they can be a very good team. They can be a team that's going to be tough to deal with. I just think they have some flaws that ultimately will be their undoing. I sure hope the Lakers can get some wins against them this year. It's been way too long and it's been frustrating, but so we'll see. I know they get them early on in the season here. Everybody, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be healthy for that one, and hopefully the Lakers can start a winning streak against the Clippers.
They got at least split.
At least. Enough is enough.
Exactly. The big story lately, at least last week or last couple of days. So Prince is going to step into the starting five role, whether or not it's because Vando has been hurt or maybe there's this possibility where they're interchangeable based on the opponent. If you need more defense, Vando, if you need more offense, Prince. Though I will say, like, I didn't even consider Prince as a possibility in the starting five. I had seen him a little bit in Minnesota, but just, Minnesota was, he was more of a role player in Minnesota. And I don't know, what are your thoughts? Are you going to take the first 20 games for them to decide who becomes the starter, or is it going to be kind of a flip-flop all season?
Well, it sounded like Darvin Ham, and we'll have to get clarification, but it sounded like he said that Prince being in the starting five was sort of a conditional thing, meaning like Vando being out, Jared Vanderbilt is unlikely to play against the Denver Nuggets. Like, that was a big factor in Prince getting the starting spot, which again suggests that when Jared Vanderbilt is healthy, he probably goes into the starting lineup, which that is a familiar thing. We saw it towards the end of last season once the Lakers got past the trade deadline. So I think that's probably what we're going to see play out. I like Taurean Prince. I like his fit. I think he shot the ball extremely well from three, which is going to be one of his goals for the season. He wants to shoot better than 40%. It's possible for Prince to stick, and I thought that he had won the spot in preseason, but based on Ham's latest comments, it sounds like it is gonna go to Jared Vanderbilt when he's healthy, when the heel is at 100%, and he's good to go.
One of the things I'm most excited about for this season is obviously the championship team in the bubble had a great defense, but it wasn't the type of defense that was going to lock you down from tip-off. They'd wait, and then they'd pick key moments, particularly the fourth quarter, where they just close you down. And so the concern this year has been, for the first time in a while, the offense is good, but I'm wondering about this defense. And, based on what I'm seeing out there, just knowing these guys enough, how they're resting, they're picking their spots. I feel like this team is that team where they're going to be able to compete offensively most nights with the improved shooting, the improved depth, but they have the athletes and the length to shut down anytime they want on defense, which is exciting because, and even when you get the subs in, with the exception of the final preseason game, you just don't feel like the floor is going to fall out from all the hard work the starters have done, which is great because, it was the first half of that season last year was tough to watch.
It really was. And that's been a challenge for the Lakers ever since LeBron arrived. It's been, whenever he comes out of the game, things tend to fall apart. The hope is they've finally built out a roster with enough depth, enough scoring, enough guys who are switchable on defense and can give you a lot of different things out there that they'll be able to sustain themselves even when LeBron is off the floor. And again, I think that's a big part of the wing depth that they've added this year. And hopefully this all works out because I think this is the deepest team that LeBron's had since coming to LA, and it's a team that is best situated to deal with LeBron being on the bench or being out of a game since he's arrived here. So hopefully that's the way this all plays out. Obviously, Darvin Ham's going to have to put the pieces together the right way, and there's going to be plenty of bumps in the road. But I'm optimistic about what this team can do on both ends of the floor and their ability to find success even when LeBron is off. I think that's going to be critical this year.
Two-part question to finish us off here. Thanks so much for your time, man. Mm-hmm. Is this A, LeBron's final season, and B, is this a championship or bust season?
So I'll say no. There was actually a commercial that came out just recently. I think it was this morning, actually, that where LeBron, through his wife, was narrating, and she mentioned, and he mentioned, not just waiting to play with Bronny, but waiting to play with his other son, Bryce. So wow. I don't think this is it for LeBron. I don't know if this may be it with the Lakers. He has a player option next summer, and so we'll see. Who knows if Bronny gets drafted somewhere else? Maybe he leaves, but I do think he's going to continue playing. He said last year, even when he was talking about maybe retiring after that last game against the Nuggets, he made a comment about how he still feels like he's better than 95% of the NBA, and he's not wrong. So he can still get it done, that's for sure. As far as championship or bust, I think it is. I think given LeBron's age, given his contract status, and the team the Lakers have put together, I do think that they are in full-on championship mode. Got to get it done because there's no waiting around. You can't burn any time here when you've got LeBron on your team. You got to find a way to get yourself there.
What I was most encouraged about was regarding LeBron was it sounds like they took time in the offseason to really build out a true load management plan for him. They had been saying this for years, but then you've been seeing him getting close to 40 minutes in some regular season games just out of necessity to keep them in the playoff race. So, that's exciting that I think they do finally really talked about and have a plan where they can have him fully rested and ready to lock in for 16 games to end the year. So you've got a lot of exciting stuff. You just released a special YouTube membership, multi-tiered level to get like exclusive first access, bonus content. Let us know about that.
Yeah, sure. So we just started that up, the Lakers Nation YouTube membership, which we took nothing away from what we were already doing. We wanted to make sure we weren't like taking our content and putting it behind a paywall or anything, but we wanted to provide some extras, some perks for people who wanted to help support the channel and support the company and all that sort of stuff. So we offer an extra weekly show for both tiers. For our upper tier, they get 2 extra shows, one show that just goes over questions and comments and it gets more in-depth into the Lakers, and then another one that breaks down the upcoming matchups for the week. And again, that's for our highest tier. There's extra emojis for people. There's going to be extra chat opportunities to be part of the decision-making process for some of our future content as well. So lots of exciting stuff that comes with that. And so far it's been great seeing what's happened with our membership program. So that's something that we just started, something I've been having a lot of fun with, interacting with, and giving people kind of more of a behind the scenes look into day to day of Lakers Nation. So that's been a lot of fun.
500 million subscribers, man. That's no joke.
We're getting there. It's been a labor of love. That's for sure. We love doing this. It is an absolute blast. And hopefully we can all celebrate a Lakers championship this season together.
Well, you guys if you're not listening to it yet or watching their YouTube version, Lakers Nation podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen, and also drop in the YouTube link in the show notes. Trevor, thanks so much for your time. I'm excited for this season, and I thank you for and one thing that really struck me, I looked at your description for the show. The word that stood out for me was intelligent Lakers talk. So not just about the emotions. You guys really break things down. And I can hear when you guys are a little bit down or also when you're excited about what's going on. But it really is, it's a great place to go to if you just want a sober assessment of what's actually going on for the Lakers. And I also think league-wide, you guys do an excellent job.
Well, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, you know what? We are our fans too. We ride the highs and the lows with the team. I'm living and dying with every shot too, just like everybody else is. But yeah, ultimately we try to not just get upset when they lose and celebrate when they win, but really break down what's happening, look at the big picture of what's going on, take a step back and get through everything together. So that's always been the goal from day one of the creation of the podcast. And I'm blown away by the growth that we've seen and so thankful to get to do this every day.
Any final closing words?
Let's go Lakers. Let's get that 18th championship. I'd love to see Lakers versus Celtics in the finals for number 18 and for the Lakers to emerge victorious. So let's get it done.
Fantastic. What would be more entertaining objectively to you? Lakers, Celtics finals, or Milwaukee, Denver finals?
Oh, Lakers, Celtics by far. I'm sure the NBA would go to great lengths to get Lakers, Celtics. Adam Silver would pay a heavy price in order to get that done. I think the NBA would greatly prefer Lakers, Celtics. Milwaukee, Denver would be a fantastic series, but Lakers, Celtics is all-time classic. So not saying the league would do anything to influence that, but I'm sure they would prefer to see Lakers, Celtics in the finals. That is a marketing dream.
I love it. Thank you so much, Trevor. Guys listening, a 5-star rating and review is much appreciated. The review does not have to be a novella. Just say BJ Podcast good. We'll take it. All right. Hope you guys check out the Lakers Nation podcast and enjoy what I think will be an amazing NBA season. Thanks again, Trevor.
Hey, thanks for having me.